Hi, this is Natalie Callback, and I'm here today with Marsha Valk from the Netherlands. And Marsha and I, we know each other for, I don't know, a long time. She still lives in the Netherlands, but when I lived in Europe, I have seen her at several events. We've taught together online. She has been part of Creative Jumpstart for several years. She will probably tell us how many.
7 time.
7 time.
Yeah.
Wow. So out of 9, she's here for the 7th time. And besides that, she's like amazingly creative. She doesn't like when I say all these nice things about her, but it's so true. But she's so amazingly creative. She's doing a lot of amazing stuff with patterns and her gel plate techniques, but she's also a whiz making beautiful movies. And she got me crying last time because she had this like really beautiful music and everything. And so just so you know, that's how Marsha is. But let me have Marsha her word too and introduce herself. Hey, Marsha.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just sitting here. It's raining outside.
Well, it's the Netherlands, right?
Inside.
It's the Netherlands and it's winter, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, Marsha, tell us a little bit about yourself and your artwork.
Yeah. So I don't like to talk about myself.
No.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of things, and some things are super busy and super layered, and other things are really minimal and just lines. And I do prints,
Yeah.
and I art journal pages, and I do some off the page, more crafty stuff. Now
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you're taking also this like amazing print making class, which I think in the last interview we talked a little bit about it. You were just going to start with this insanely amazing group of people that has been meeting for several years
Yeah,
and teaching each other like different printing techniques. And I think you're still there, right?
I am. I am still there. I just started with aqua tints.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's a learning curve. uh, it's not all going well, but yeah. Well, I never show any of it online, so maybe I should. Maybe I
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
show some of it online.
You should. Because I'm always dying about it, and then when you come up with like another nifty idea for your, for the gel print techniques, I'm like, I bet she got inspired by something that she also did, because that's how it works, right? You're taking a class, and then you're not teaching the same class, of course, but you take a little snippet, and then you think about how can I translate it to the materials and things that I have at home, because we don't. I guess you still don't have a huge printing press at home.
Nope. Nope. No. But there's a lot of printmaking, the old-fashioned printmaking techniques that you can translate to the jelly plate. So yeah, I am inspired by things that I see at the printmaking class, and then I do translate into the. But yeah.
Did you? I think one time you said you brought your gel plate to the print.
I did.
And
Yeah.
how did they react to it? Were they like?
Yeah. Well, my teacher is an old-fashioned, and he doesn't really like the modern stuff. But some of the students do want to learn newer techniques, and I taught a group of, I think, 4 people how to use the jelly plate, and they are still talking about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
They
think
really
it's
like
also.
it, because most of them also don't have a press at home, so they can do lino prints at home. But well, the jelly plate has a lot of other possibilities.
Right, right. I think that's awesome, and I think that's how it was for my class when I took that, not as thorough as you did, but I did take two printing classes with the same teacher here. And we were talking about a couple of things, and I showed him the jelly plate, but he was also inspired by just like other ways of making printing tools and incorporating them, and that was super fun.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Marsha is here for the seventh time for Creative Jumpstart, which, guys, this has a reason. As you know, I invite the people that I admire. And this year, every year I give out a theme. And this year, as you might know already, the theme is your artistic superpower. What is your artistic superpower?
Well, I have thought about it, and it's synthesis.
What does that mean?
From what I understand, that it means bringing together stuff from well, all over the place, and then bringing them together to create something new.
Just like you
And
were saying before, right? With the you're taking the printmaking class, and you see something, and then you take parts of that, and you make that your own in a different way at home, kind of like that.
yes, exactly. Yeah, but it can be anything. So it can be something from my past or something I see somewhere. And I think I say it in the video that it's like there are hatches opening in my mind, and then together something else forms.
That is so cool. So when you and I totally see that with you too, because you're always like saying, oh, this, like, we're I think we're a little bit similar in that, like, oh, I see something that inspires me, and then I it's not easy to always see where you got inspired from unless you kind of sometimes say, hey, these are the things that inspired me, which is cool, and then you're like, oh, and that's what you made out of it, that's really cool. So if I think about your real life, like, I mean, you're making art is your real life too, or crafting, but
Yeah.
what is your normal life, like your everyday life superpower? Is that the same or is that different? What would that be?
That's an interesting question. Um, I don't know. Well, yeah, I guess it is because I have done a lot of different jobs, and um, for an outsider, they might not be have anything to do with each other. But for me, it's very clear where the one thing combines with the other thing, and then um, goes on to the other thing. So yeah, I guess in real life I am also a synthesizer. I worked in television. I worked at a school.
Oh, wow.
Um, I and then I went to retail.
Hmm.
In the meantime, I got into this art making, crafting business. Yeah,
That's so
that's
cool.
that's. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I think it's so funny because it is true for me as well that having all these experiences in different fields, they kind of like come into play when you're later doing something like this. So, you know, I
Yeah.
was a paralegal before, and it would be like, well, what did you learn that helps you with this part? And besides, of course, like reading contracts or whatever, you know, that's actually the least thing that's so important. It's more like being more organized, and also how you know, especially for Creative Jumpstart, of course, I don't think I would be able to organize Creative Jumpstart without having a crazy working in a crazy law office with so many people, you know. So Marsha, we talked about it a little bit before, and it was that you're doing so much beautiful things beside amongst others with jelly plates, and you're actually you're part of a team of the company Jelly Arts, who's our sponsor for Creative Jumpstart, which is amazing. Thank you so much. And you show, I think, once a month or even more often, like a
Yeah.
video and a tutorial. So, how did you get into using that tool, and what do you personally like best about it?
So I'm not really sure. I thought about it, but I remember that I think you and Birgit went to CHA and then
Yes.
came back with small jelly plates.
Yeah.
You took a workshop there, and then I remember visiting you in New Jersey, and at that time I didn't have a jelly plate. But I went to the ink pad and I looked at the jelly plates there and I didn't buy one because I thought it was kind of expensive
Yeah.
and I was totally overwhelmed in that store. So um, the one time that I get to that store and then I'm overwhelmed. But anyway, so the next, I guess that was 2013.
Yeah, that's when
So
I
the
moved, and
next
that's
year,
when you were there. Yeah.
yeah. So the next year, I went to Version Scrap,
Hmm.
where Birgit taught. And there was a lady there that taught a workshop with a jelly plate. And it was really funny because there was a whole group of people taking the workshop, but there were only 2 jelly plates. So we had to take turns. But after that, I thought I would be interested. And then after the workshop, of course, I had to buy one. So I bought a little square one. And then I was still scrapbooking at the time, so I started jelly printing on my scrapbook, or using jelly printed paper on my scrapbook pages. And I think that was a really important point because I then started moving away from scrapbooking and doing more and more art journaling and printmaking.
Yeah.
That's how it started. Yeah.
That's really interesting, because I remember actually, yes, I didn't know that that's how you saw them first, but I remember that Birgit and I used to always meet up in LA for the Creative Hobby Show once a year, and then we would share a room together. And she suffered from my snoring, so sorry, Birgit, still. But I remember we went to this workshop, which our friend Jen Mason, I think, taught, and there weren't enough plates. Like they didn't want to give plates for everyone out because it was too many people, and I think at that point it was so you know, so new, and it's pretty expensive for a small company. It's just the 2 ladies who founded that company, and if you go to a show like that, it's a lot of money that you have to put out for those workshops. And they cut actually the plate up. And I think I remember that we were like, that's what we went home with this like cut up little piece. And I think I remember that they actually, we were thinking, oh my God, it would be so cool if they had like a small plate, but they didn't for a long time. It took a while before they came out with those smaller plates. But it's funny that because that's how Birgit and I back then got introduced to it, with a small, plate. And oh my God, it came such a long way about how the community of people who were using the jelly plate discovered things and do new things. And I cannot wrap my head around it, how you and Birgit and even Tanya too, all of you guys on that team, pushing and pushing and pushing the boundaries of that plate, and getting even further and even like more things and different. Like I remember then we were saying you can't use, or we were actually taught in that workshop, you can't use other materials on there than acrylic paint, right? And now you guys are using like pan pastels and markers and stamps, and it's insane.
Yeah.
What's the
And it's
last?
still the same plate, and it still goes. It's not. It doesn't break. You can. It's an investment at first, but it, yeah, you can use it forever, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, I also know that you are not afraid to mix patterns in your artwork. You're very good in patterns, or, that sounds weird, but I mean, like, you make beautiful like you mix patterns and you make really beautiful
Yeah.
patterns. And I know that some people struggle with coming up with patterns, and I think it's also like when you see, for example, I think last year, I'm not a fashion person, so whatever I say now, take it with a grain of salt, right?
Okay.
But like I think last year there was like a big trend, or maybe the year before, maybe it's still there, to mix clothing with different patterns. And I always loved
Mm-hmm.
looking at it, but then you're like, I'm gonna look like an idiot if I do that. Like,
No,
but like,
don't.
but do you have any tips for students who would like to come up with patterns or create patterns on how to do this or how to make that work?
Yeah. So, um, it's funny that you're talking about the fashion. It's kind of like the same thing. And I think that I learned it, well, I probably already did it because my mom used to sew clothes, and she was big on matching stuff together. So it's something that I have uh, been brought up with. But with scrapbooking,
Mm,
um, you also combine different papers together, and the key to matching the pattern is just laying them next to each other and then seeing if it matches or not. Because you can't think about stuff like that. You have to see it.
yeah.
Um, so when you go to your closet, you take your uh, shirt and then you match it with the pants. You hold it next to the pants, and then okay, this one looks fine. And then you wear that. So it's the same thing with papers. And then I know, of course, when I mix patterns, it's not always something that is already existing, but then it's in the color use, I think. So
Yeah.
I think beforehand about the colors I'm going to use, and then I know these colors work together. Um, Yeah, and then you also have big patterns and small patterns. So you always need to have a mix of both. That's in short my advice for
I think
matching.
it's brilliant, and it actually, I wouldn't even have thought about it to pinpoint that that's how I do it. But you now that you said that, it makes so much sense, because I actually, for example, I just got new stencils that are being released soon. And what I usually do with anything that I get new is I take a sheet of paper and I plainly just, put the stamp or the stencil on top of it. And then I have, just because I test them, and then I have all these different sheets with the pattern that the stencil already made or the stamp made, but I always have them laying on my desk or on the floor. And then I see how they actually work together. And that's then the second part is you show something with the stencil, but then you get interested in how can I mix and match those stencils. And because it's different when seeing them on the computer or when you work on drawing them, but when you see them in action next to each other, you start to think, actually, I can mix and match these two stencils together or layer them on top of each other. And it's exactly what you said with the fashion, right? You kind of like lay it next to, it's very visual approach on doing that. That's I've never thought about that. That's so true.
Yeah, you should look at, if you want to learn more about that, you should take a fashion magazine and then just look. Oh, here's a floral, and they combine it with a stripe, and the color in the floral maybe comes back in the stripe. That's how it works.
Right.
That's how it with scrapbooking. You
Yeah,
have,
right. Right.
and then if you put two really busy patterns together, it doesn't work
Right.
because then are whoa, like what is
Right.
this? But then you combine one busy pattern with one with more open spaces, or a total, or lines with what I said, a floral, and that totally works
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah. Very cool. Thank you so much, Marsha. That is a good tip to think about it. And I hope
Yeah.
that helps other people too. So, you also, especially recently, always, but especially recently, I feel like you have been traveling quite a bit.
Hmm.
No?
I feel like I've been at home a lot this year, but I have been to Spain recently.
So you were just in Spain. What did
Yeah.
inspire you, especially in Spain? Where were you actually?
I was in Barcelona, and there's a, yeah, I know. It was the better, the weather was really nice, even for uh, the the Spanish people there. They thought it was exceptionally warm for autumn.
Yeah.
Uh, so for me it was especially warm because I'm not used to that. Anyway, yeah, I was staying at the host of the person who owned the shop where I taught the workshops. I was staying at our home, so almost everything was inspiring because I ate Spanish food, and I
Mm.
stayed at a Spanish house, and I walked through the Spanish streets, and I only saw Spanish people, and yeah, it was super special. Yeah.
I think Barcelona, yeah.
Hmm? No,
I
talk.
think Barcelona just like that was one of those cities when I was there that just blew my mind. I mean, like it sounds weird because as a European you can get almost to every city unless it's Portugal like in an hour, by plane. And as a Germans like to travel to Spain, let's put it that way. So I've been to Spain several times, but Barcelona really, really knocked me off my socks in terms of uh, art inspiration, all the Gaudi influences, the colors. It was just like, and graffiti, like a ton of graffiti. Um, Oftentimes, like, I think actually asked for by store owners way before that started. What now it's kind of mainstream that people are asking graffiti artists to make a graffiti on their kind of like a security gate for stores. But when
Mhm.
back then that was normal, so it was just like, so it's just an like right.
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of time
Mm.
to walk around in the city, but I did see some graffiti, and I went to the Museum,
Oh yeah.
and of course to the Picasso Museum.
I didn't make the Miro. That's my biggest regret. I did go to the
Oh,
Picasso.
it was wonderful. It's super spacious, and yeah, well, I say that all the time, but if you are standing in front of those paintings, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
It's like the black is black, and you see all the little details that you can't see on prints or on the internet. It was super amazing, and of course I was there alone, so yeah, that's also always super special
Yeah.
because then you really let everything sink in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do enjoy going with friends a lot to museums, but it is a different experience for sure. I think it depends a little bit on, of course, how you're, as we say in German, knitted. Meaning like,
Yeah.
but when I'm going with someone else to a museum, I still like kind of don't want to hold that person up, or you're kind of like you're in it together. You're not just going to
Hmm.
stand there for 200 hours at the same thing or whatever. So it is, I know what you mean. It is a total different experience. I wish you could do both.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, then you have to go twice.
Wouldn't be too bad. I would go back to Barcelona and do that twice. That was so good. I cannot wait for people to see your video. It's awesome, as every year. And Marsha, where do people find you online? You're teaching, and you do your jelly plate tutorials as well. Where can people find all these things? I will link them up on my blog when I post it, and you will too. But
Yeah.
let's for those who find this video somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm mostly on Instagram. So when you go to my Instagram, which is Marsha Valk, just Marsha Valk, then you probably can find everything. My videos with jelly plate are over on Jelly Art's website and YouTube. My videos for Stencil Girl are on Stencil Girl's YouTube channel. And then I do have a Facebook page, and you can find me there. It's also Marsha Valk and then page. And I have a website, which is marshavalk.com.
That's like so consistent of you.
Yeah, no. The only thing is the Facebook has page behind this because I can't make it work with Marsha Valk just yeah. Anyway, Marsha Valk, and you could find me. Anywhere.
Yeah, go and check her out, and also please sign up for Creative Jumpstart if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
And use Marsha's link when it's posted. She will appreciate that, and I cannot wait for you to see what Marsha did for Creative Jumpstart for the 7th time, and it's a different video, so you're in for a treat. Thank you so much. Thanks, Marsha. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.